Oh, well, we will have time. This is such a rich subject. I wanted to mention two things, and this is digressing a little bit, but I noticed when you were talking about the tendency to rule, and you were mentioning several stories and books and examples of that. Two of my favorites were Animal Farm, and by George Orwell, of course, and Lord of the Flies, and which is about a bunch of British children who are shipwrecked on an island, and what happens when they're left to they're all pre-adolescent, and what happens there. It's a very interesting story, and
everyone's equal, but some are more equal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the same in Animal Farm. All animals are created equal. Some animals are more equal than others, and it's so interesting. I have a tendency to see some unfortunate comparisons to the story Animal Farm and what's going on in this country today. And what I wanted to know is, Bill, if you had one piece of history, and there's probably many, but if you had a piece that maybe was pertinent for our culture today, and it's not like what's wrong. I mean, I often, and it doesn't have anything to do with being positive or negative. I think discussion and complaining, I think those are contributions. So I like to look at things, though, from not what's right or wrong, but what's missing. And what do you think is missing? Something that we could learn from history that's so important and so critical that's missing today?
Well, one story is, and the segue's great, is Athens. Athens had a king named Draco, and he was the one that first wrote down their laws, but it was the death penalty for every other thing, so his laws got termed draconian.
Wow.
Right, because the king was like so strict.
So that's where that came from.
And so they get rid of Draco and they get a new king in Athens named Solon, S-O-L-O-N, Solon. And Solon invented democracy and then left town, so they had to do it. And in a democracy, everybody every day had to go to the market and talk politics. And if you did not keep up with politics every day in Athens, you were called an idiotus. An idiot. And so now we have a dynamic where the city is making the decisions. And so the question is, if there's a king and you have an agenda, you got to get in to see the guy.
Right.
So the Chinese emperors would have 2,000 concubines and Mandarin eunuchs that kept the concubines, the harem, and you would have to bribe these Mandarins with favors just to get in to see the emperor and pitch your agenda. But in Athens, there was no emperor. The people made the decisions. Well, if you have an agenda, how do you pitch it to the entire city? Well, that's when they would get the whole city together in an amphitheater and they would put on plays, Greek theater.
How about that?
And they would have tragedies and comedies where they would honor and extol some points of view and ridicule and buffoon other points of view. And so from that time till now, theater is always political when you're in a nation where it's the people making the decisions.
How about that?
And then they developed something called rhetoric. It was a way of persuasion, right? The people are making the decision, so you want to persuade them. And so it's ethos, logos, pathos. That's rhetoric. So ethos is ethics. That's the ethical reputation of the person that is speaking to you, right? What's their credentials? Do they have some confidence, that you can trust what they're saying?
Credibility.
And if you can put a whole bunch of doctors after their name, well, then you can trust the same thing that they're saying, but you trust it more. And then the second is logos. It's the logical, persuasive argument. The third is pathos, where we get the word passion, and that's the emotional appeal. The poor little children, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes one party's accused of being more logos, logical, and other parties accused of being more pathos, passion-oriented. But these are persuasive techniques to the populace when it is the populace making the decision in a democratic form of government.